dear students. I am Dr. Shikha Pandey, Associate Professor from the Institute of Aeronautical Engineering. Today, in this lecture series of environmental studies, today I am going to discuss about the topic from the module 5, that is about the environmental impact assessment. This is all about the management of environment. So now let's start this environment impact assessment with their basics of the EIA, that is also called as EIA, Environmental Impact Assessment. So EIA is a process that ensures that all environmental matters are taken into account quietly early in the project at planning process itself. Means EIA is a process that will ensure that all the environmental matters that is concerned with any projects, that is related with any project, should come into the environmental account at a very early stage. And it takes into the consideration that not only technical and economical consideration, but also related with the traditional aspect like impact on local people and biodiversity. That's why this EIA has been originated in our country. It will take consideration the effects of any development to the socio-economic of the country, and some traditional impact also, and biodiversity also. That's why it is also it is known as EIA, means environmental impact assessment. Assessment of any environmental impact, assessment of impacts on the environment is, we can say it in a very normal language, like impacts of the assessment on the environment is called as EIA. So let's come on with the basic definition of this EIA. It is that it is a process which can be used to improve decision making and ensure that development under consideration are environmentally, socially, economically sound and sustainable. Means it is a process which can be considered under the use to improve decision making and ensure that development should be under consideration are environmentally, socially, economically sound and sustainable. Means any development that should be sustainable according to the social and economical and environmental. Means in this process, we're going to consider all the effects related to the environment, like some socio-economic effect and socio-cultural effects also related with that development to the society. And it can be defined as the study to predict the effects of any proposed activity on the environment. Means that normal language, we can say that it can be defined as the study to predict the effects of any project or activity on the environment. Basically, EIA means only that it is assessment of the environmental impact due to any project or proposed activity to the environment, and it should be considered in every manner, like it should, the consideration are environmentally, socially and economically sound and sustainable. Means it should be sustainable as per their environment. They will environmental, social and cultural, social and economical. Means everything should be matched in this environmental impact assessment. Means it should assess the impacts on the environment by any project or any development authority or any project activity. Priorly, it will done the assessment to any area, that what that project will be impacted on the environment. Means it is a prior decision making before that project is proposed to any area, and that decision will comes under the, it should be economically sustainable, it should be biodiversity, it should be environmentally sustainable. That's why this is called as EIA. It is a prediction of the effects of any proposed activity or any proposed project on the environment, and it should be like a priorly decision making, said what that project will affect to the environment after the 5 years or after the 10 years. That's why this environment impact assessment will be there, that will predict the impact related with that project to the environment, and that the impact and that will be a decision maker tool. EIA is like a decision maker tool, like what decision they should have to give on that particular project. So if somebody is planning an mining project, somebody is making a highway, so that what that project will affect on economical, social and environmental impact on the of that particular project is called as EIA. Means it will be priorly decision maker is there. First point is that decision making tool. It is a decision making tool. Like before that, the project is decision making tool, means it is a priorly will give decision like what that project will cause on the society or on the environment or biodiversity of that particular area, and it should be consider if that project will be sustainable, it should be environmental friendly, then that project should be considered, and that committee will provide clearance to that project, and then they will put their project and they will start making the project. But before planting any project, before starting any project, EIA should be mandatory for every year, for every project. Now comes to the next thing, that is about it is according to International Association of Impact Assessment, that is IARE, International Association of Impact Assessment, that is IARE. According to them, what is the definition of this EIA? So they defined that it is a process of identifying, predicting, evaluating, and mitigating the biophysical, social, and other relevant effects of development proposal prior to decision being taken and commitments made. Means that IAIA has been given the definition for this in EIA is that it is a process of identifying, predicting, evaluating, and mitigating the biophysical, social, and other relevant effects of development proposal prior to major decision being taken and commitment made. And it has been the history of EIA is that it has been started in the year 1960 as a part of rational decision making process. And then after, it involved a technical evaluation that would lead to objective decision making. And this was made, EIA was made legislation in the US in the National Environment Policy Act 1969. So in the National Environment Policy Act NEPA in 1969, US has been added this EIA into their legislation. So that will be a very necessary thing before applying any project or before starting any project. This EIA is a very important tool every project has to do, and it is a mandatory for every project. So first bring a clearance certificate from EIA authority. So after they will get a clearance certificate from the EIA authority, then they can start the project. So there are some steps in this EIA we'll discuss in the coming slide. This is all about the EIA. EIA has been first started in the year 1960 in the US, and it has been added in the 1969. They have added it into the National Environment Policy Act 1969. And see, this is the evolution of EIA, means how this EIA has evolved. So first of all, in the early 1970s duration, that is the initial development of EIA. That is about the initial development of EIA. Early before 1970, there are some people, so that is little bit discussion about this EIA, and then that era was called as initial development on the EIA. In the era of 1970 to 1980, they are increasing the scope of the EIA. Means they started working on this EIA processes and what scope should be there for this EIA. And in the mid to late of 1980, they have started some processes strengthening the policy integration. And mid 90, they have started this EIA towards sustainability. Means people started thinking towards sustainability and biodiversity. So if we will think about the sustainability means the thing that if development should be there, but it should not compromise with the need of future generation. That kind of development is necessary in today's world. Means development is important for today's generation also, but it should not compromise the needs of the present or of the future generation. That's why that sustainability word came into the use. And due to this sustainability, EIA is much important because EIA will provide each and every things related with the environment, that it should be that project should be environmentally sound or environmentally, economically, socially, culturally. It should be suitable for the local society of the particular place, so that development we can say that is coming under the category of sustainable development. Due to this, EIA has been evolved. EIA is basically for the those projects. They will give clearance to only that project which will be not causing any harm in the future, and they will take clearance to with the that authority, so that that project after the setup of the project, they will discuss about the consequences and pros and consequences related with the project, so that they will give idea about like how much effect that specific project will cause on the environment. So if more effect is there, if they will compromise the need of future generation, if they will going to disrupt the biodiversity, if they will cut the trees of many area, then they will not allow the project, because project and development should be there. Because if we plan a highway projects, if any government will plan one mining project, if any dam is there, if they will plan a dam is there, then that will be causing harm to the society, local people. They will shift the local people to different area, so that will affect the livelihood of local people, that will affect the society of that people, economy of that people, and of course, no doubt, that will affect the environment of that biodiversity of that area also. That's why evolution of EIA is there. EIA will come to assess the impact of that particular project onto the local people, onto the local biodiversity, so that that sustainability we can achieve after taking clearance from the EIA authority. They can achieve that sustainability. So this EIA is all about for the sustainability of any project. Sustainability of any project. So now comes to the main steps in the EIA process. What are the main steps involved in the process of EIA? First one is the screening. Screening is done at the very initial stage. Then after scoping of the project, means what are the scope of the project, in which that project will cover which area. And then prediction and mitigation, means prediction related with the project, and mitigation should be there, like what we can do, what necessary step we can take to minimize the loss or to minimize its effect. And then management and monitoring of the project, and in the last, auditing of the project, environmental audit of the project. So this is all about the main steps of EIA process. So now comes with the details of this EIA process. First one is the screening. Screening results into the categorization of the project, and from this a decision is made on whether or not a full EIA to be carried out. Means first of all, we'll do screening, like it is important to do EIA or not, and screening often result into the categorization of the project. Means that project will fall under which category. Means like many categories they have given in the annexure and in the amendment, in the rules of EIA notification, like that project will come under which category, and thus that EIA is needed or not, and full EIA is needed, or initial EIA is needed. Because initially we'll do EIA, then we'll get information, like if somebody is planning, if government is planning any factory into a forest area, then initially we can say that cutting of the forest is the loss of biodiversity, cutting forest is the loss of that local people, those who are surviving there. So that will be economically, environmentally not sound, that will be not applicable, that will be not effective, not useful for the future generation, that will be not sustainable development. So that at the initial stage, any person can say that will project EIA will not accept. So this is the first step about this EIA. At first time they will carry it out like this can be not done, this we cannot accept, and like this some little bit project is there that will not causing any harm to the society or to the environment or to the economy. So they will accept that project at the initial stage also. Like second point is that the scoping. Scoping is the process of determining which are the most critical issue to study and will involve community participation to some degree. And it will involve the community participation also at to some height. And then detailed prediction and mitigation studies follow scoping and are carried out in parallel with the feasibility studies. So After that, if they will find that that this screening will give that information, like there is some harm to the environment is there due to this project, then they will start the second step, that is about the scoping. And in this process, they will start determining that which is the most critical issue to study, which thing we should study, and will involve community participation to some degree. They will involve the community participation also, means if any dam project, they will start going to start. So in the scoping processes, they will take the feedbacks of the local people living around that area, means they are whether direct or indirectly going to affect with the project, so that this EIA authority will take the feedback from that person also, and they will also participate in the decision making of this project. Next thing is about the detailed prediction and mitigation studies follow scoping and are carried out in parallel with the feasibility study. Detailed prediction and mitigation studies follow that scope and that are carried out in parallel with the feasibility studies. And the main output report is called as, last report is called as EIS, Environmental Impact Assessment, that contain a detailed plan for managing and monitoring environmental impact both during and after implementation. So first is that screening will be done. Then screening will decide that EIA is needed or not. And after that, scoping will be done. There are some steps in the scoping. And after that, they will do the detailed prediction and mitigation studies related with that project. And then they will give the main output report. And that report is called as Environmental Impact Statement. So that contain a detailed plan for managing and monitoring environmental impacts both during and after implementation. And finally, an audit will be carried out in the process of EIA, and that out sometime after implementation. The audit serves a useful feedback and learning function. So this is all about the whole steps of EIA. First one is about the screening, scoping, prediction and mitigation, and then final report is there, that is output report, that is environment impact statement, and then audit is there. Then the audit will be done to know that the EIA process is carried out sometime after implementation. And this is the flowchart for this EIA impact studies. Like first one is that we'll think that the project is there, if EIA is needed or not. Then after they will do the scoping of the project, means which impact and issue to consider. Scoping will decide that which impact and issues regarding that project will be considered. And then the description of the project, development action. Then different side, they are also seeing that what are the development related with that project. Development related with the project. And then description of environmental baseline. Then they will give description about the environmental baseline, like what are the basics, what are the baseline data of that area, means they will provide the environmental baseline, means the environmental condition of that particular area where that project has to be implemented. And then the next step is the identification of key impacts. Key impacts has been identified. And then next step is about the prediction of impacts and evaluation and assessment of significance impacts, and then significance of mitigating measures. So these three steps are coming under the prediction of scoping. Like that, they will do the prediction of impacts, evaluation and assessment of significance of impacts, and then identification of mitigation measure. Next step is about the presenting of findings in an EIS, including a non-technical summary. Then they will give on EIS, Environmental Impact Statement. Environmental impact statement that will give findings, that will discuss about the findings of the EIS, that include the non-technical summary also. And now next is the review of EIS is going on. Then after decision making, and then again one step is there, that is post decision monitoring, means they will do the monitoring of the post decision and auditing of prediction and of mitigation measures. So you can see that these three steps involves the public consultation also, means that for all these three steps will take help from the public and local people of that area. Means they will give the consultation about the consultation and feedbacks. They will give their remarks on that specific development, like what they want or what they didn't want. So these are the first step, and then second, then third. So first, after review of the EIA, some, if let's think that some review is there, some changes should be made, then they will again go to the second step, that is about the scoping and all this thing. Sometimes it will be returned back to the screening again. Sometimes the screening will start again, then scoping, and then next step is there, review of the EIS, and then EIS review is again there. Then after, they will go for the decision making tools. Now comes to the next thing, that is about the benefits and advantages related with the EIA. So EIA is intended to prevent or minimize potentially adverse environmental impacts and enhance the overall quality of the projects. So this will be done to reduce the potentially adverse environmental impact and enhance the overall quality of the project. So the main benefits related with the EIA are, the first one is that the lower project cost in the long term, means less project cost in the long term. And next benefit is like increased project acceptance, means project acceptance will increase, and then that will improve the project designs also. And lower project cost in the long term, again that thing is about the lower project cost in the long term, improve project design, then improve decision making, and then environmentally sensitive decision is there, increase accountability and transparency, reduce environmental damage. It will reduce the damage caused by the environmental damage is there, and then improve integration of project into their environmental and social setting. These are the main benefits related with the EIA. Like, it will lower the project cost in the long term, increase project acceptance, improve design and improve decision making, environmentally sensitive decision, increase accountability and transparency, reduce environmental damages, improve integration of project into the environmental and social setting. These are the main benefits and advantages related with this EIA projects. Now comes to the next point, that is about the EIA process allow the communication of potentially environmental problem to the project proponent, means they will allow the communication of the potential environmental problem. So if that person will find that some environmental problem is there, so they will inform that problems to the project proponent and then regulatory agencies, like whatever the impact is going to be there with the development of that project. And then again, all stakeholders and interest group to enforce the potential environmental problem that would arise out of the proposed development and address them in the planning and design stage of the project. Means they will, these are the three steps, then they will discuss the problem with these three things. First one is the project proponent and the regulating agencies and then stakeholders and interest group to force the potentially environmental problem that would arise out of the proposed development and address them in the planning and designing stage of the project. And now the next thing is about the who are the person who will be involved in the EIA processes. First one is the project proponent, service provider, reviewer, decision making, and the public. So they are the five things, five important steps of the EIA. Like, these 5 persons are involved in the EIA processes. Project proponents is there, service providers are there, reviewers are there, decision makers and the public are there. Now the methodology involved in the EIA, means what methodology that EIA processes will be following. First one is the registration, then screening, scoping, and then the compiling TOR, that is terms of references, organizing the EIA study, undertaking the EIA study, reviewing the EIA report, and then environmental management and monitoring, and then environmental auditing. Registration is a simple administrative procedure which requires project proponent to officially register their intention to undertake development activity. Means first one is that registration is a very first step, and it is a very simple administrative procedure that will require project proponent to officially register their intention to undertake development activity. Now comes to the next thing about the second step is about the screening. Screening is the process to determine what level of environmental assessment is necessary or appropriate for the specific project or the proposal. Means that screening will determine that at what level of environmental assessment is necessary and that appropriate for the specific project or proposal. After the screening of the project, the decision will fall into full EIA required, preliminary assessment required, or EIA not required, or project proposal rejected. So after screening, four steps are there. After screening, they will give decision that the full EIA is required, preliminary assessment required, EIA not required, or project proposal should be rejected. And next point is the scoping. Scoping is used to focus the EIA on any key issue for decision making. We go to this stage if the screening process subjected the project into full EIA processes, provide the first and the most important opportunity to identify and involve the stakeholders, guidelines, and structure of scoping. Reports are involved in the EIA and audit regulation of 2005. So second step is about the scoping, and it is used to focus the EIA on the key issue for decision making. This is the key issue for decision making. Like they will go to the different stage of the project if the screening project subjected the project into full EIA processes that provide the first and most important opportunity to identify the stakeholders, guidelines, and structure of scoping of report of the provide to the EIA and audit regulation of 2005. Now next thing about them, what role the scoping will do. They identify assessment method, identify project alternatives, and determines the boundaries like spatial, temporal, and functional, institutional. Has defined TOR for the EIA study. They will give terms of references for this EIA study. So in scoping step, this is the assessment method, and they will identify project alternatives and that determine the boundaries like spatial, temporal, and institutional. And then that helps in defining the TOR for the EIA study. And now comes to the next point, that is about the scoping. Scoping will compile the terms and references are special terms set by registered EIA consultant firms and project proponent for the review. And TOR must be approved by NAMC. Why TOR? Means why this TOR is important. TOR is important because TOR will provide financial guidance for practitioner on issue that must be addressed in the EIA processes, clarify to the proponent what is expected to them, and then after they will provide the reviewing agency with a tool of compliances. And next thing about the EIA is that the organizing the EIA study involve acquisition of relevant environmental sound standards and guideline, knowledge and relevant policies, law and institutional arrangement. And the timing of EIA should be commenced from the project design details has been finalized and well before project presentation commences. So this is about the organizing of EIA study involve the use of the knowledge of the relevant policies and all. And undertaking the full EIA study in this, if a project is undertaking the full EIA study. So in this stage, EIA predict which impacts will occur as a result of the project and their likely significance. They also identify measures to mitigate or avoid these impacts or optimize the benefit of the project. So undertaking, if any project will take the undertaking of full EIA is there. So first of all, what they will do, that EIA predict which impact will occur as a result of the project. Means they will identify that which impact that can be occurred by that project, and on there what are the significance, and they also identify measures to mitigate or avoid these impacts or optimize the benefits of the projects. Next point is about the key component of full EIA study are the full impact of the EIA study are the first impact identification, then examination of alternatives, then evaluation and assessment of impacts, and development of mitigation option, and information dissemination and documentation. So this is about the components of full EIA study are required. First of all, impact identification, then examination of some alternatives it should be there, and evaluation and assessment of impacts, and then after development of mitigation options and information dissemination and documentation. Now next thing will come, that is EIS. EIS is the environmental impact statement. It is a way to communicate the findings of the EIA study. EIS means EIA is the report. We can say it is a report, or it is a way to communicate the findings of the EIA studies. This is the unique document that is different from the regular academic or the consultancy work. It is made to influence and guide decision making. Contrary to other report, it is more than just creating knowledge. The report has to be non-technical, readily possible to the public, and made available in local language also. So after this EIA full study, one statement they will give, and that will be the communicate the findings of the EIA study. And this is a very unique document, and it is not like the some academic or consultancy work document that is non-technical, and it is readily possible by the public, and it should be made available in the local language also, so that local people will understand the pros and consequences related with that specific project. So after the EIA study will complete, they will give it in the statement, they will give EIS, and that will communicate with the findings of EIA studies. And it is a unique document that is different from regular academic or consultancy work. It is made to influence and made for the decision making, that is made to influence and guide the decision making processes, so that any public can understand what are the pros and consequences related with that specific project. And it is always available in a local language. And this is a very not like a non-technical report. This can be like not like any academic report or consultancy work. It is a very simple statement. It is written in a very simple language and in a local language, so that every local people can understand the consequences related with that project. So that after EIA will be done, full EIA will be done, they will give a report that is called as environmental impact statement. Next thing is about the EIA review. Then they will do the review of EIA. And the key issues that will be considered on the EIA review are the first one is the sufficiency of information provided. Means they will think that it is sufficient, the information that is provided is sufficient or not. Then sufficient attention to EIA processes, means they will give the attention has been given to the EIA processes or not, means that will be sufficient or not. And then reliability of analysis or interpretation, and then utility for decision making. Now again that is about the environmental management and monitoring. Next step is about the monitoring, means what they will do, they will monitor and assess the effects of projects on natural and cultural environment. Means in after EIS is there, and then they will do the EIA review. So in EIA review, they will think that the sufficiency of the means that is the information that has been provided in the EIA that has been sufficient or not, and then sufficient attention to EIA process, that they have been given proper attention to that process or not. Then reliability on analysis or interpretation. And then the quality of the utility for decision making. Then they will give another statement that is called as environmental monitoring and monitoring management. And in this statement, they assess the effects of the project on natural and cultural environment. That the general thing is there, the effects of the project on natural and cultural environment. Environmental monitoring provide feedback about the actual environmental impacts of the projects, helps judge the success of mitigation measures in protecting the environment. And next thing about the final decision making and auditing decision. Next thing about the project is that the project is made by the planning authority. Say they will do the decision on the project. Like this decision can be made into either of the following categories. First one is about the proposal approved. So they will do decision on the first thing, that is the proposal approved with some condition, like this kind of decision they will give. And then proposal on hold pending further study if some further study required. And then proposal returned for revision and resubmission. Then they will return the proposal for some little bit revision and resubmission. And then proposal rejected, no decision taking until EIA report considered again. Means this comes under the category of rejected if the project is rejected. they will do they have to do by the decision making processes is there. Now comes to the next thing. This is about the EIA status in India. The MOEF, that is Ministry of Environment and Forest, are the agency for the environmental clearance in India. Means MOEF will give the clearance on environmental in India, and if necessary, it may consult a committee of expert with a composition specified in Schedule 3 of the notification. Means then it is a whole and soul is that MOEF will give the environmental clearance to any project, and the project proponent is responsible for the preparation of EIA statement with the help of external consultant or institution. The amount allocated in and spent for preparation of EIA by the project proponent are usually some small, low compared to the overall project cost, often less than 1% of our overall projects. So this is all about the EIA status in the India. MOEF has the authority; they will give clearance to the MOEF in India. And next is thing is about that, like this is the conclusion slide, and that in this lecture we will understand that EIA is very much beneficial step to check whether the project is environmental friendly or not. And since economic development is a result of interaction between natural resource and technology support by design for people, so all human activities should be economic, socially, and environmental friendly. So then we can achieve the term sustainability. Then only we can achieve this term sustainability, because economic development is a result of interaction between natural resource and technology supported by design for people. Means economic development we can only achieve by the interaction between the natural resource and technology. Then only we can achieve our development. And so all human activity should be economic, social, and environmental friendly. That's all about the today's lecture. Thank you. This is all about the EIA. Thank you.
Like, share and subscribe. Hit the bell icon for more updates.